President Trump's first full day of the second term is wrapping up with an executive order putting all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion staff on paid leave. Also today, the Department of Homeland Security announced illegal immigrants can now be arrested at sensitive locations like churches and schools. But in a legal challenge, at least 22 states have sued to stop Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship, which guarantees U.S.-born children are citizens regardless of their parent status. We have team coverage on how the Trump transition is impacting our communities. Let's begin here in studio with Bauman and the fight against the president's immigration crackdown. Allie.
Christine, the president's executive order impacts future babies born in the U.S. whose mothers are unlawfully here or here on a temporary status like a student or work visa.
I graduated Rutgers a year ago.
24-year-old Isela of New Jersey is what's known as a dreamer. Her parents brought her to the U.S. from Mexico when she was 2 years old. Under President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship, if Isela were to have a child, that baby would not be considered a U.S. citizen.
We have our lives fully established here. I don't know how we would be able to maintain a family.
New Jersey's Attorney General is leading more than 20 states in a federal lawsuit to block Trump's order, arguing it is unconstitutional.
It's an assault on the very text of the Constitution, a right that our nation made sure to codify in the 14th Amendment.
Isela joined her neighbors in a rally Tuesday against the Laken-Riley Act, which already passed the Senate and is expected to be voted on in the House this week. The legislation would require ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to detain undocumented immigrants who are arrested for burglary or theft even before conviction.
Then that means that if I suspect somebody of shoplifting or stealing change at the laundromat when I'm washing my children's clothes, that I could be subject to indefinite detention.
Border Czar Tom Homan vows migrants who commit crimes will be deported.
The president's been clear on this. We're going to concentrate on public safety threats. This election proves that the American people support the removals of criminal aliens in this country.
In the sanctuary city of New York, the NYPD sent out this memo reiterating members of service are not permitted to engage in civil immigration enforcement, assist in any manner with civil immigration enforcement, or allow any department resources to be used in connection with civil immigration enforcement. But police can cooperate with federal agents to apprehend people who commit 170 crimes, including rape and murder.
Those who commit violent crimes in our city have violated their right to be in our city and in our country. And we're going to continue to collaborate with ICE around criminality. Tuesday,
the Trump administration threw out policies that limit arrests of migrants in churches and schools. In Connecticut, Bridgeport Public Schools are assuring parents no ICE agents or government officials are permitted to enter school buildings, buses, or attend school events without prior written authorization from the superintendent. And tonight, CBS News has learned the top leaders at the Justice Department's Immigration Courts Division have been removed from their jobs. And Christine, that's according to people familiar with the decision.
Okay, Allie, thank you. And also there is backlash tonight after the president effectively shut down one of the largest Justice Department investigations in American history. About 1,500 January 6 defendants were either pardoned or had their sentences commuted. Derick has reaction, including an exclusive interview with one defendant just out of prison in Brooklyn.
These are some of the people on camera attacking police officers 4 years ago that President Trump just pardoned. And on Tuesday, he doubled down.
We pardoned people that were treated unbelievably poorly. In the history of our country, there's never been anything take place like this.
Those defendants include Ryan Samsel, the first to breach the Capitol, according to prosecutors, just released from federal prison in Brooklyn. He spoke to our Masa Saidi in this exclusive interview.
You were looking at 20 years and now you're free.
Yeah, I really want to thank Trump.
Samsel is among the nearly 160 defendants CBS News confirms had prior criminal records. The Pennsylvania resident convicted twice for violence against women, but for his role on January 6, he says, the last 3 years behind bars was enough.
If I did commit crimes that day, they should Should have been paid for by now.
On Tuesday, Trump's allies were left to try and explain it.
I may not always agree with all of it. I think some of those protesters or some who were just walking through the Capitol were treated very unfairly.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was among the Democrats slamming the pardons, asking in a statement, what happened to backing the blue? Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy was practically beside himself.
1,500 people, some of them who engaged in violence, who will never be held accountable for their crimes. It basically just guarantees that that will happen again.
That level of outrage was nowhere to be found at New York City Hall, where a day after accepting a last-minute invite to Trump's inauguration, Eric Adams refused to utter a negative word about the man, who also has the power to pardon him.
If things that he does that I disagree on, I will reach out to the president.
Two major police unions are also speaking out. In a joint statement, the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police called out both Presidents Trump and Biden, who, on his way out, commuted the sentence of a man convicted of killing FBI agents 50 years ago. They said, quote, it sends a dangerous message that the consequences for attacking law enforcement are not severe. Christine?
Well, another January 6 rioter who has been pardoned is Julian Cater. He was serving 6 years in prison for using pepper spray to assault police officers, including Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick. Sicknick, a New Jersey native, died the day after the riot at the age of 42. And today, his family called Trump's pardoning of rioters, quote, an undoing of justice. In a statement, the family said in part, there are no words that adequately describe the pain of losing Brian. It is our hope that the truth of what happened that tragic day will survive, irrespective of the partisan political objectives. New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is on track now for confirmation to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. The upstate Republican answered questions from members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee at today's hearing. She said that challenging China and supporting Israel would be two priorities. And she has had frequent praise from President Trump, who nominated her.
Push back with President Trump's America First, Peace Through Strength as the United States ambassador at the United Nations. I think that the UN has not lived up to its founding mission of international peace and security.
If the Senate does confirm Stefanik, Governor Hochul will call a special election in New York's 21st congressional district, which stretches from north of Albany to the Canadian border. And we know a number of the president's executive orders and their impacts are important to our community, and we will be staying on top of the immigration changes. To see all of our reporting on the Trump presidency, head to CBS News New York.